Okay, so right now we're standing in the middle of the square, the actual epicenter of the square. Behind me, I mean, this is a classic shot. You'll see the Cathedral of St. Mary's Basilica in Krakow. It's a cathedral, it's a basilica, it's a church. It's very important to, in looking at the church, I mean, the inside is amazing, but in looking at the church, you can see that the towers are uneven. One of those towers was raised, made higher after the original construction, which was finished, I believe, in the end of the 1300s, if I'm remembering correctly. It was a long time ago, at any rate. We see the back of the Mickiewicz statue, and what a view this is, because what is more iconic in Poland than St. Mary's Church and Adam Mickiewicz, the poet who wrote about Lithuania and Poland. So, at any rate, we see that the most important thing to remember is one word about St. Mary's Cathedral, and that is the Cracow. The Cracow, yes, it's a song. It's a bugle call, in fact. It's, some people might say, a warning, originally. It was a call to action if anything was going, if anything untoward was going on in the city. That could be an invasion, it could be a fire, it could be both on some occasions. The great invasion by the Mongols was in 1271. The whole town was burned. It was a ruin. And gradually things had to be rebuilt over decades and decades of time, and even centuries, to recreate the medieval heart of this city that we see now. I remember as a kid reading a book. It was called The Trumpeter of Cracow. I think I referred to it in a previous episode when we were marching down Florianska Street. And this story had absolutely an indelible effect on me. It was unforgettable, this particular story, because I was a little boy, and at the time, and the hero of the book is, in fact, a little boy, or certainly somebody to identify with. It was written, it came out in 1929, obviously written around that time, by a guy called Eric Kelly. And a lot of people say that the legend of the trumpeter and the reason the Cracow is cut short, because it doesn't play the full amount, it's cut short. It's the reason it's like that is because of this story, this legend about the bugler who was warning the city of the invading Mongol army, the Mongol army sneaking up in the dead of night, like this lady sneaking through my camera, sneaking up in the dead of night. She heard me. Sneaking up in the dead of night and trying and lying in wait to attack the city. And they ran to the tower and, as the story goes, went up and gave the call. And as the call was being given, an arrow pierced the throat of the bugler. Hence, the Cracow does not finish. It stops before it finishes. It's played every hour on the hour, all year round. It never stops. It's the eternal call of not only the city, but of the Polish spirit, we might say. And in fact, it plays on the radio every day as well. So people throughout Poland can hear it, and throughout the world, in fact. So the Cracow, this interrupted bugle call, it's very interesting, isn't it? It also seems to symbolize the, although it predates the partition of Poland, it seems to symbolize the truncated kingdom of Poland and its separation into three different parts. So you have the interrupted bugle call, and you have the interrupted country, if you will. I'll tell you one of my favorite stories as well about this square is Tadeusz Kościuszko, Kosciuszko, say it right, it's a bit cold, who here made a speech rallying the Polish nation in the 1790s, the late 18th century, to rise against the Russians and to challenge their hegemony their power over Poland at the time. It was still a new thing. So Kosciuszko raised an army, and we might have to remember to fight the Russians, but you have to remember that Kosciuszko also fought in the American Revolution and was a very close friend of not only George Washington and Thomas Jefferson, those famous Virginians, but also of Pulaski, the great cavalry officer, who also who died in the American Revolution. So when we stand in the circle, we're thinking about freedom. It's impossible not to think about freedom. Artistic freedom as represented by Mickiewicz, religious freedom as signified by this amazing basilica and cathedral of St. Mary. I said before that St. Florian is a patron saint of Poland and a patron saint of firemen and also of beer makers, which is lovely, isn't it? They both use water in a very important task. It's 239 steps, I believe, to the top of this building, this tower, to make the bugle call. And this is done by a fireman. So perhaps St. Florian is also responsible for that bugle call. I just thought it was a nice touch. At any rate, we're here in Krakow. It's lovely here in the holiday time, in the winter time, and we're going to walk around and we're going to see a lot more stuff on the Royal Route and also here in the middle of the square in the old town in Krakow. So stay with us. Poland Daily Travel, more to come.
Cracow, the ancient capital of Poland, this capital city on the Vistula River in Lesser Poland, remained the hub of the kingdom until the year 1596, a leading center in Poland of economic, cultural, artistic, and academic life. Its old town with St. Mary's Basilica and the Old Cloth Hall is UNESCO World Heritage Site. There is an enormous amount to see in Krakow, but you have to start somewhere. And we're going to start at the beginning of the Royal Way. It stretches from Florianska Church, outside the ancient walls, through the Florianska Gate, to Wawel Hill, the origin place of the city known as Krakow. There on Wawel Hill, Krakow grew over 1,000 years ago from what had been a Stone Age settlement to a thriving hamlet. It's a fascinating place, and it would take a month or two, or even a lifetime, to really get to know this ancient city. So if you will, by way of introduction, let's take a walk along the Royal Route from St. Florian's Church, down Florianska Street, into the square, that fine Old Town Square which UNESCO has recognized as one of the living monuments of civilization. Let's wander along the route, pausing to look at various quite stunning monuments, until we find ourselves by the rolling Vistula River, under the Wawel Hill, near the cave of Krakow's legendary dragon. It's Krakow. It's Poland. It's Poland Daily Travel. Stay with us.